In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make a really beautiful, super easy, fancy fold card. It's like a stepper card. And I want to send out a thank you to Debbie, a stamper friend, who introduced me to this card by sending me the video link where a lovely demonstrator in the UK did a presentation on this card fold. And I will leave the link to her video in the description down below for you. So today I figured out my measurements because I wanted it in inches, and I also did my own little tweaks, and I have made this fancy fold card so easy, and I think you're going to really enjoy making them. I know I am. So without further ado, let's start stamping. So I'm starting with a piece of real red cardstock. This measures 8.5 by 5.5, and along the 8.5 inch side, I'm going to line my paper up at the 2 1/8 measurement, and I'm going to score that. Then I'm going to turn this around and do the same thing on the opposite side, score it at 2 1/8. Okay, so all I've done is I have made those two flaps. Now I'm going to turn it around, and along the 5.5 inch side, I'm going to cut within this center panel. So I'm going to line my 5.5 inch side up to the 1 1/8, and my scoring blade doesn't want to stay in. There we are. So let's make sure let's do it this way. 1 1/8. Okay. And I'm going to bring my cutting blade up to the top score line and just cut it down to that bottom score line. Okay. Flip it around. Do the same thing on the opposite side. Line up the paper at the 1 1/8 and cut between those two score lines in that center panel. So that's what you're going to have at this point. All right. Now I'm going to score at the 4 1/4 mark, just from the top to the cut line, from the bottom to that cut line. So along the 8.5 inch side, line it up to 4 1/4, score just down to the cut line, move that scoring blade down, and from the cut line, go down to the bottom. The last two scores that I need to make are 1 inch inside this panel, just within the cut line. So I'm going to line it up at 3 1/8 and score just between those cut lines. Okay, I'm going to flip it around, line it up at 3 1/8 again, and score between those two cut lines. And that is it. And believe me, once you start making these, I know I say this all the time, but you'll see just how easy this is. So now I'm just going to take my bone folder, and I'm just going to go across these score lines really well. Okay. This next step is like a bit of a cheat for me, but I find it works really well. So fold these two panels up like this. Okay. Let's keep those flaps out. Hang on. So you're going to fold these up like that, and you're going to see you've kind of got this middle bit rounded. Honestly, because I've been making so many of these, I find the easiest thing to do is just push down in the center and flatten those out with your fingers, and then take your bone folder and get a good crisp crease. Now I did try to come up with measurements for these, but I was off by just a tiny little smidgen, and honestly I just got a little bit frustrated. I'm like, there's gotta be an easier way. This is my easier way. It is so easy. So this is the card fold. So your front panel is going to go here, right? And then it's just a matter of decorating it. So let's go ahead and decorate it. I am bringing in some designer series paper from the Berry Christmas. So I'm pulling in this pattern, and I'm going to cut my designer series paper panels. So I'm going to cut this down at 1 7/8. And I need 2 of those. So I'm going to cut that at 5 1/4. 1, 2. So 2 panels that measure 1 7/8 by 5 1/4. I'm going to set those aside. Then I need 4 panels that measure 1 7/8 by 1. So I'm going to cut this down at 1. You can use the same pattern or something entirely different. I'm going to use this pattern. So I'm going to flip this around. This is 1 inch thick, and I'm going to cut 4 of these that measure 1 7/8. Let's get these glued on, and then we'll move on to the front panel. Now I'm going to glue these ones onto these steps here. It's time to do the panel part. So I'm going to take another piece of real red cardstock, and I'm going to cut this to measure 3 1/4 by 4. So let's just go ahead, cut that down, and 3 1/4. Now, before I go ahead and decorate this, I want to make sure it fits in there. Just fits. Okay, now I'm going to cut another piece of designer series paper, and I'm going to cut this at 3 7/8 by 3 1/8. So I have to figure out how I can get the best image in there, what I'd be cutting out here. I'm going to go ahead with this because I'm going to cover this little bit, I think, with the Merry Christmas. So let's go ahead and glue that on. Set this aside and stamp my Merry Christmas. I'm going to emboss this with white. Making this with my Versamark. Sprinkling on my white embossing powder. I accidentally used the clear instead of my white, so I'm going to go ahead and do it again and then decide which one I want to use on my card, because the clear looks good as well. And then I'll have an extra Merry Christmas for my next card. Gonna go on right there like that, and I think I'm going to put a little bit of ribbon around this. So I've got my silver white ribbon, which I just love this ribbon, and I'm going to bring in a Stampin' spritzer. A lot of you have seen me do this type of bow before, or not, I should say. So I'm just wrapping it around my spritzer, and you can use anything. You can use a pen as long as it's easy to slide this off, and the diameter of whichever you're using is going to determine the size of your bow. So I used more ribbon than what I need by a long shot, but that's all right. Okay, so now I'm going to slide this off, and then this is my loop. So I'm just going to cut that on an angle, and I'm going to take some tear and tape and just put a little bit right there. Let's take that off. Okay. And then this, let's see, let's put it that way. This is just going to get folded underneath. Let's get some more tear and tape on there. Trim that just a little bit more. Put this on with Stampin' Dimension. Now it's time to put that panel onto the card. So I'm going to take my glue, and I'm just putting glue on that inside panel, not these two sides here. Okay. And then what I like to do is with this open, I'm going to center this right on the inside in between those cut lines. Oh my goodness, this is so cute. So then when you open it up, look at how that panel pops up. Like how cute, and then it just stands like so. So let's, like adorable. And then it closes up like this, and your flaps could either go down on the right or the left, or one right, one left, and just tuck it inside an envelope. Now, for the sentiment, you could flip it over, whatever, right on the panel, put a piece of white if you want. But what I'm going to do is take a piece of basic white cardstock. I'm going to cut it down at 4 by 5 1/4. Then I've got this piece left over. I'm going to trim this down to measure 5 1/4 by 4 as well. So it's my 5 1/4 by 4. Oh, it's a little bit shy of 4. That's all right. And I'm just going to glue this onto one side of that basic white. And this side is a side that I'm going to write my message on. But I want a piece of designer series paper. So I'm bringing this back in. And I'm just going to cut, oh, let's do 3/4 of an inch. And I'm going to trim that down at 5 1/4 and 5 1/4. I'm going to go ahead and stamp Christmas is Better together. Use my Night of Navy for this. I am going to glue this on the back of my card, so I'm just folding my card up, and I am going to take some tear and tape here, and I am only gluing this onto the one panel. So I'm just going to put some adhesive on this side. You could use glue. I've decided just to use my tear and tape since it's out, and I don't need a lot. I'm just going to do the 2 strips. Fold my card, position this on the back. So when you open it, you can see this little scene, which is a continuation of this designer series paper right here. So when you can kind of peek through there, kind of hard to show on camera, but when you are holding it and you're kind of peeking through, you can see that background. And it's adorable. And then on the back, you've got your message. And I think I'm going to add some bling. I'm going to bring in some snowflakes and just put a couple snowflakes on this front panel. Put one there. I do like to work in 3, so maybe we'll put 3 on there. We'll put one here, and then the smallest snowflake right there. Some rhinestones. My completed card, and it's so cute. I just love it. I just love this card fold. Okay, so let me show you another quick variation, and then I'm going to show you a couple more cards that I've made, and then some photos of some cards that I've already made and given away, because I truly think this is my favorite card fold. But I want to show you how I made a couple cards yesterday using the Garden Meadow Designer Series paper, and all I did was stamp a sentiment. So let me go ahead and pick a pattern. I know I've been using this paper a lot for good reason. It is so beautiful. So I know right off the bat that I am going to need 2 pieces of Designer Series paper that measure 5 1/4 by 2 1/8. So I'm just going to go ahead, trim that down. So I have 2 1/8 here. And then I want this piece here. So I'm going to turn this around and cut this at 2 1/8. Okay, and put that aside. And then I want this piece here. So, okay, I'm going to start by cutting it down at 5 1/4. And then I'm going to slide it over to 3 1/4. And I'm going to cut it at 4. I'm not going to cut my little pieces yet. I'm just going to go ahead and finish off with this. This card features Melon Mambo because I want to pull out the flowers that are in this card. So this is so quick and easy. Once you do 1 or 2, you will have this down pat. So 2 1/8 on both sides. 1 1/8 between the score lines, which is what we're going to cut. And then 3 1/8 to cut, or to do that score line in between those cut lines. Flip it around, 3 1/8 between the cut lines, and then 4 1/4 on the top and on the bottom. I would use my bone folder right now if I had it, except I don't know what I did with it. Okay, bring these up, fold, fold, bring these up, slide it together, holding the center panels in, push down, and crease. I actually want to put this on a piece of cardstock just to make it a little bit more sturdy, so I'm going to use the Melon Mambo, cut it down at 3 1/4 by 4, and I'm going to trim this down so that it measures 3 1/8 by 3 7/8. Stamp "Knowing You Brings Joy to My Heart." Stamp that with my Melon Mambo. Bringing in the Beside Me stamp set, and I'm going to stamp those little birds. Actually, I think I'm going to put some ribbon around that. I'm going to use that same silver white. Really tight, slide it off, trim that. I'm going to stick a glue dot behind that knot. I'm going to put it right here. Bringing in this DSP again, I'm going to cut it down at 1 on the top, one along the bottom, and then cut 2 pieces out of the bottom at 1 7/8. And 2 pieces from the top at 1 7/8. Actually, I don't want to have this piece with that little tree, so I'm going to cut this one at 1 7/8. All right, let me show you a couple other ones that I've made. Here's one that I've made using our really pretty Christmas Designer Series paper. Then I have this one that I made using Perched on a Tree and our beautiful Designer Series paper. It says you're the best ever, and then when you open it up we have a happy birthday. And then the back side. Easy. And then I also made this one today. I am just loving this card fold. Like, can you tell? Just loving it. And I'll insert a couple pictures now of a sympathy card that I made, as well as a birthday card that I've already given away using this fun fold. I hope today's video has given you some inspiration. I really know you're going to just love making these cards. I don't remember the last time I've been this addicted to a card fold, to be honest. I am just loving them that much. And I will show you, I've got my clear envelopes. Stampin' Up sells clear envelopes and our white envelopes and our vanilla envelopes. This is just a clear one, but I want to show you that they do fit inside with no problem at all. See? They fit great. I love it. And they're not bulky, so they'll be fine for postage. I mean, as you add your ribbon and your embellishments, of course, the thickness is going to be determined on, you know, that will determine the cost of postage, but these are just awesome cards. Thank you so much for watching, friends. I really appreciate you. If you haven't already, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the little bell so that you know every time I upload a new video. Take care and happy stamping.